When people ask me where I'm from as a college freshman, you always get the what's your major, what's your name, and where you're from. Whenever I get the where you're from, it's always a case of, oh man, how much time does this person have? So all of the states here, Oklahoma, Texas, Indiana, Michigan, Wisconsin, I've lived in all of them. I've lived in 5 different states, and I've moved a couple of times in each one, so I've moved a total of about 8 times. The move I'm going to be talking about specifically today is the move from Oklahoma to Wisconsin in my freshman year. Well, the summer of my sophomore year. Up until that point, moving hadn't really been that difficult. You know, I've done it a couple of times, but the move from Oklahoma to Wisconsin, it was really a defining move for me, and it was a lot more difficult than I expected. It consisted of a lot of long car rides, a lot of sleeping in the car, and in the chaos of moving, I found myself in Wisconsin. So you kind of go from this crazy, wild, chaotic chaos of moving, and suddenly you find yourself plopped in place. You have new friends, you have a new life, you have a new house, everything is different. So usually it had always been a case, you know, there's the general uncomfortableness of moving, but after a little bit of time you adjust, and it's not so bad. But the move from Oklahoma to Wisconsin was a lot more difficult for me. What I thought was going to be easy, adjusting, it felt like a hole that I couldn't climb out of. I'd wake up in the morning and I'd think like, oh, I've got another day of this. And I counted down from my freshman year till the day I was going to be graduating. Not really a great start. So I always kind of wondered why I felt that way. You know, I was angry, I was depressed, I didn't want to try and adapt to my environment. I always thought, maybe it's me. Like, maybe I'm just a weak individual reacting to a normal situation, which could be. But in all of my, like, trying to figure this out, learning about, like, what's going on, I stumbled upon an article, and I'm going to read it directly off the paper so I don't get it wrong. It's an article by the American Journal of Preventive Medicine. They said that adolescents between the ages of 12 and 14 that relocate are over twice as likely to attempt suicide, have mental illnesses, and then close to 4 times as likely to battle with substance abuse and violent offenses. Keeping that in mind, I feel like I've done all right. But as we see, moving can have a lot of detrimental effects on children. But why is that? You know, it wasn't like it was a terrible house. It wasn't like it was like I wasn't losing my family. So why was it so difficult? Well, even if you haven't moved, which I'm sure some of you have, even if you haven't, I think we can all agree, change is difficult. Change is never easy. And I've come to the conclusion that change doesn't really happen to you, change happens inside you. So for me, moving wasn't easy. And it was something that changed me in a lot of negative ways. You know, I'm not going to stand up here and say, I'm so much better now because I moved. Looking back, moving sucks. And change sucks, to put it bluntly. But it's what you do with that. If you want it to affect you negatively, it will. If you choose to look at change as, you know what, I can grow from this. This was where I was in life, and this is where I am now. It hasn't been easy for me, but I've grown from it. I lived in a small town of Oklahoma for the majority of my life. I guess 6 years, so not the majority. And it's true. Edmond, Oklahoma, just like the motto says, was a great place to grow.